Okay. Setting a proper motivation, which consists of 3 parts. Refuge field. Visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of you. Bodhicitta field, visualize your 2 grandparents, all your family members, and all dear sentient beings around you, leaving them aside. And imagine that here you are the mother, and all others are like your children. And imagine they come home very sad, demoralized, dejected, and you are there to give full love, affection, attention, and so forth. And the purpose of this class is to discover our own potential, to discover ultimate treasure of happiness that exists within each one of us. What experiences happiness, miseries, what causes the experience of happiness, miseries, is all but our own mind. Through our own experience, which we see that with the same external factors, same external conditions, some people are so happy, some people are very unhappy, some people are neutral, and again the same given situation, environmental situation, you as the same person, one time you are very happy with the same condition, but other times you are unhappy, which means it's not external, it's purely internal. From this we see that there's we're unaware of this incredible hidden treasure of happiness. From this, the fact that various experiences, happiness, pains, and so forth arise, but depends on external factors, but all arising within oneself. This, for a sensible, for a wise person, this is an incredibly good news, that there's a treasure of happiness within me. And the factors responsible for giving rise to the miseries, if I stop them, then the happiness forever shines forth. And this is the full awakening. This is the ultimate happiness. This is the freedom from the vulnerabilities. Okay, so with this, finally, we see that this treasure is veiled by the mental defilements. And the mental defilements, we see that there are 2 kinds, the gross and the subtle. The gross, also referred to as the afflictive obscurations, which all are rooted to what is known as the self-grasping ignorance. And on the other hand is the subtle stains, mental defilements. These also referred to as the cognitive obscurations, which again is nothing but the manifestation of the subtle stains of the afflictive obscurations, and particularly the subtle stains of the self-grasping ignorance. To eradicate the gross one, the gross afflictions, the gross afflictive obscurations, it is through introducing the wisdom of emptiness, the counterforce of the root cause. So this wisdom of emptiness must be motivated, driven by the force of renunciation. To see that finally, just to have this perception of things as objectively real, which is actually not true. In actuality, everything is subjectively coming, but we see them as objectively real. This is the greatest deception, and this is the greatest prisoner of me, the greatest prison guard who creates this prison for me, self-grasping ignorance. With this confidence, wanting to renounce this self-grasping ignorance, thus renouncing all the miseries. For this, the desire to renounce this sarcasmic ignorance, which is also referred to as the renunciation that is required. And then to cleanse the mind of the subtle stains, also referred to as the cognitive obscurations, it is through employing the same wisdom, the wisdom of emptiness. Here, now the driving force should be much more intense, because we're thinking of cleansing the mind of the very subtle stains. For a cloth which is thrown into mud, to remove the external mud, solid mud, is much easier as compared to remove the subtle stains left after removing the gross mud. So to remove these subtle stains, we do need the detergent, very powerful detergent. But to remove the solid mud, we don't need detergent. Just with the plain water, that can be removed. Now, the subtle stains of the mind, to remove them, while the remedy is the same, the wisdom of emptiness, but the driving force, the motivating force must be so intense. It should be bodhicitta on top of the renunciation. So with that in mind, and imagine, each one of us, how many people you know. You have your parents, you have your family members, you have your friends, you have all sentient beings around you. And just imagine how many of them have ever heard about these concepts. To think seriously is a great source of sadness. To see that so many people, they're all suffering, not knowing these facts. Only if we know these facts, then we can expect to work on, to go through this journey. Gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhiswaha. So with that in mind, out of profound compassion to sentient beings, to all sentient beings, your parents, all your family members who are at the moment in the home, not getting the opportunity to take part in this kind of the gathering. So imagine that they are with you, and all the sentient beings, everyone in the hands of the terrorists, everyone in the hospitals, everyone in the KFC, the animals in the slaughterhouse, all these animals, everyone. Imagine that you are inspiring them, and you are leading the group, and everyone is happily joining you to pursue through this journey, mental journey, to cleanse the mind, and thus wisely achieve the genuine happiness. Okay, with that in mind, let's turn to page 2. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. In dependent origination, there is no ceasing, no arising, no annihilation, no permanence, no coming, no going, no separateness, and no sameness. I prostrate to the consummate Buddha, the supreme among all teachers, the one who taught this peace which is freed of elaborations. I prostrate to the mothers of the Buddhas and of the hearers and Bodhisattvas, who through the knowledge of all these hearers seeking pacification to complete peace, who through the knowledge of all past causes those having migrated to achieve the aims of the world, and through the possession of omniscience, the subduer set forth the varieties having all aspects. The one who has transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector, to you I make prostrations. The one who has eliminated the web of conceptualizations and is endowed with the divine bodies of the vast and profound, eternally shines forth the forever noble light rays, to you the Buddha I make prostrations. Page 7. As we recite these lines and the mantra, we have to know the meaning, we have to learn the meaning. And as for the other stanzas, you read, it's the self-explanatory, it's very easy for us to understand. And as we read even these simple verses, keep this in mind, this is so important. I personally first got a clue. Of course, since my childhood, of course, the teachers, they would say that when you recite something, there are two ways reciting it, where your mind distracted, and the other, your mind is fully there. Then later on, I think studying the Abhidhamma Kosh, there's a, you find a mention of what is known as, when you reflect on a point, there are three ways of reflecting. Say, when you say emptiness, with the words and the reference, what this word really mean, the referent of the word, and the word, the label, and the referent of the label, the two. Of the two, where your mind is more into the word. Number two, where your mind is half-half, word and the referent. And your mind is fully into the referent. There are three. So initially, when we recite these things, the fact that we are reciting means that we depend on the words. At the same time, so for example, Om Ye Dharma Hidu Prabhava Hetumde. So this mantra, and then Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisattva. These mantras, we see that the meanings, the words, they have a superficial meaning, and there's a deeper meaning there. And we see that when we read it, particularly in group, we have to just flow rather than just Om Ye Dharma, then stop and then reflect. So we don't get this opportunity when we are in group. So in group, say the more the mantras and the verses which have very most nuanced the implications or the implicit meanings. So there we have to heavily depend on the words, and particularly in group we may not be able to unravel what is the implicit meaning. Whereas with the more simple verses, the meaning is very condensed, very profound, but is vividly available as you recite them. For example, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. It's so obvious. The words are so obvious. They are so strikingly, they're very striking in revealing the meanings. So there are two ways of reciting it. One is, although your mind is wholeheartedly reciting it with tremendous the devotion, respect, and so forth, but you go more into the words rather than the reference. Another one is, put a little effort there, you go to the reference, what exactly it means, by invoking the respective experiences. When you do this, then what happens is that the real experience, Dharma experience, you will see that they start to take place in you, they start to take birth in you more quickly. And for example, say bodhicitta, the wisdom of emptiness, and so forth. So and some people have been reciting all these mantras and the verses for like 40, 50, 60, 70 years. But still they are much more the same person. The feeling-wise, no feeling there. And whereas some people, they may have been saying this just for 1 year or 2 years, but the experience is so vivid. So this is all because of how you recited them, This we need to. And then when you read them with the, say, meaning reflected, you see that after about 2 or 3 pages, you already feel tired, because so much energy is consumed when you reflect on meaning. Whereas if you don't reflect on meanings, although fully dedicated with devotion and so forth, when you read them, even 20 pages is fine, there's no problem, because your energy is not consumed, you are not into the meanings, and the benefit is so less. Right? Okay, with this, whatever we recite And I'm not just sharing with you, I'm telling myself also. This is what is very clearly said in the Abhidhamma Kosh. Abhidhamma Kosh, when I was studying that text, I found that it really shook me. Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing how mind can just be with the words. How mind can be half-half, words, meanings. And then our mind is fully on the meanings, right? So initially to be fully on the meaning is a little difficult, but we try our best to at least go towards the second half meaning, half words. Okay, so let's read them from the bottom. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Choda Zoge Chonam La Chanju Bardo Dane Gyabzoji Age Jinso Gebe Chonam Ge Chola Benjire Sangye Rubarasho Sangye Choda Zoge Chanju Bardo Dane Gyabzoji Age Jinso Gebe Chonam Ge Chola Benjire Sangye Rubarasho Sangye Choda Zoge Chonam La Chanju Bardo Dane Gyabso Che Dage Jinso Gebe Sonamge Chola Benjire Sangye Rubarasho. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well is taught by the great seer. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Tesham Tathagato Hyavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Bhati Mahashramanaye Swaha. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Tesham Tathagato Hyavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Bhati Mahashramanaye Swaha. Om Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Tathagato Hyavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Bhati Mahashramanaye Swaha. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well is taught by the great seer. Okay, let us read Heart Sutra, which is on page 15. As we read Heart Sutra, particularly those of us who are involved with the Narendra Master's course, we see that we have the soon we have the word 10 systems, instead of 10 systems, one. Then after 10 systems, we have the Madhyamaka Avatara, entering the middle way, the text. We see that as we understand the meaning of Gati, Gati, Paragati, Parasamgati, Bodhisattva, as we understand the meaning of that, we see the need to unfold the meaning of the emptiness, ultimate reality. And finally, for example, so for making a very good food, making a good meal, we need so many factors. And finally, the most important factor are the ingredients. Likewise, whether for the practice of sutra, practice of tantra, practice for personal liberation, practice for Buddhahood, for all sentient beings, the main ingredient is the wisdom of emptiness. Main ingredient is the wisdom of emptiness. And how you make it just for one person, like renunciation as the driving force. And use this material for all sentient beings, then the driving force of the bodhicitta. And then this experience, the same experience, though with the bodhicitta, experience of the emptiness in general, and the emptiness of the mind. And within the emptiness of the mind, we see that the mind, the gross mind, and the subtle mind, emptiness of the subtle mind. So all these sophistications, we see that, say, in some cases, the final, whatever is the subtlest, the final emptiness. What is the final emptiness? Emptiness of the mind. What is the emptiness of the mind? Within the mind, we see that the gross and the subtle, the emptiness of the subtlest mind. Okay. In order to have the experience of the emptiness of the flower, we need to know what a flower is. In order to have the experience of the emptiness of the subtlest mind, we need to have the experience of the subtlest mind first. Only when we have the experience of the subtlest mind, then we can focus on it, we can work on to see the emptiness, ultimate reality of the subtlest mind. Okay, so we see that there are so many ways to activate the subtlest mind. Dzogchen practice, Chakchen, the Mohammedan practice, then the subtle energy, subtle drop practice. There are so many practices to activate the subtlest of the mind. After activating the subtlest mind, this is not the full story. It's just a half story. Halfway through. After activating the subtlest mind, then the subtlest mind, using the subtlest mind as the means, we have to see the ultimate reality of the subtlest mind. Using the subtlest mind as the means, as the subject, to see the ultimate reality of the subtlest mind as the object of this. So that is the union of the subjective clear light and the objective clear light. So this union, we see that is the manifestation of the final reality that alone has the greatest potential to cleanse all our mental defilements. Okay, so we see that in all cases, say, on the one hand, we need to have the driving force that I should not remain in samsara. On the other hand, we need to have the driving force that I should go for all sentient beings. I should become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So these are also important. And then we also need to activate the subtler mind, subtler forms of the mind. And finally activate the substance of the mind. After doing all these things, what should we do? We should cut the self-grasping ignorance and the subtle stains. Now, the self-grasping ignorance and subtle stains, they are associated with the grosser mind as well as the subtlest of the mind. And even if you are to cut the self-grasping ignorance and the subtle stains associated with the grosser mind, as long as it is there with the subtlest mind, our mind is never going to be cleansed fully. So, to see that our mind is cleansed of all the mental defilements, we should be able to cleanse the mental defilements on all levels, the gross mind and the subtle mind. In order to cleanse the defilements on the subtle mind, we need to have the experience of the subtle mind first, before we cleanse the defilements of the subtle mind. So this activation of the subtle mind, that also plays an important role, but that is not the full story. Finally, we have to cut what? We have to cut the self-grasping ignorance. To cut the self-grasping ignorance and the subtle stains in the form of cognitive obscuration is only through the wisdom of emptiness. But in order to work on this wisdom of emptiness on the different levels, physical world, then the self, the subject, Within the self, where the body and mind go into the mind. Within the mind, we see that there's a gross and a subtle go into subtle. So that's how we go. The world with which we interact. The world and I. With respect to I, this I is more important than the world. And with respect to this I, the body and my mind is more important. Because we go through surgery so that I will not have more pain, I will not have more pains with this, more pain with that, and so forth. We are ready to give the organs, we are ready to sacrifice organs. If there is, say, the cancerous the tumor with one part of the organ, we are ready to cut that. Which means the body and mind, we feel we are more closely connected to the mind. Within the mind, the gross minds are temporary. Gross minds are temporary. Say the waking state. Only when we are waking state, the consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, these are active. When you do deep sleep, all the consciousnesses, majority, 60-70% of the sense consciousnesses, they dissolve. Then when you go to deep sleep, then even these remaining like, say, the 10-20% of the sense consciousness, they also dissolve. Then the mind takes the subtle form. So this subtle form was existent even while we are awake. Existent, but they are not manifest. Because the grosser ones take over the subtle ones. So subtle ones, they are not manifest. Now, when the grosser ones are subdued or temporarily become they dissolve, then the subtle ones become manifest. So within the subtle ones, again we see that there's a perception of the objective existence. And within the subtle minds, so say the subtle mind when we go through deep sleep, and the subtle mind we go through faint, subtle mind when we go through the time of death. At the time of death, then the subtleness of the mind is activated. The subtleness of the mind is activated.
Can I ask you, is the mind activated by the brain?
Okay, so that is the grosser ones. The grosser ones are activated related to our brain. Then when we die, then the brain becomes the dead. Then the subtleness of the mind, they're activated. Subtleness of the mind is activated. So this subtleness of the mind, also known as the clear-light mind. Immediately before the clear-light mind, there are three further the subtler minds. But the clear light is the subtlest. And of course, I'm not supposed to be speaking too much into length about all these processes. But the subtlest one is known as the clear light, subjective clear light. Now, subjective clear light that we experience at the time of the deep sleep, at the time of faint, at the time of death. Again, within that, there's a difference in subtlety. The one that you experience at the time of death, that is the subtlest. Why subtlest? Because the mind accompanies with the energy, physical energy. During deep sleep, although the clear light is activated, but still the energy, the energy in its full form, they are not dissolved in a such form. It's still there. Somehow they're connected with our body. They're connected with our, say, the brain. They're connected with our the channels within the body. At the time of death, they're all going to be disconnected with our body altogether. So the whole energy gets dissolved. It was subtlest form. So that is the subtlest subjective clear light. Now, if we have no training, one on the activation, training to activate this subtlest subjective clear light while we're still alive, one. Number two, no training to see the emptiness of the phenomena, emptiness of things. Then, when this subtlest clear light gets activated at the time of death, then what happens is that even to this subtlest clear light. Although it is dissociated with all the physical world, and dissociated not only with the physical world, also with your own body. It is all disconnected, except for the last drop at the heart, the position of the heart. Now, so this there, although it is dissociated with all the sensory objects, with the external world, with your own body and so forth, one thing which still is left there is that to this subtlest mind, objective existence of the phenomena, objective existence of the appearance still appears. Even the subtlest clear mind, which gets activated naturally by the force of karma, even to this mind there is the perception of the objective existence, which is mistaken nature. So there's the element of the distortion there. There's the element of defilement there. The mind is defiled by seeing whatever perception taking place, seeing that perception as objectively real. So now our job, if we really want to cleanse our mind of all the defilements, we have to cleanse our mind of that perception, erroneous perception of that this such clear mind has. And how to do that? It is through seeing emptiness. Not only seeing emptiness, seeing the emptiness of this subtle mind. So we should have the experience of seeing the emptiness of this subtle mind while we are still alive. So while we are still alive, we should have the experience of this subtle mind and then see the emptiness of this. So it is for this reason that to activate this subtle mind also forms a part of our practice of the Gade Gade Para Gade Para Samvade Bodhi Swaha, and then the driving force which allows us, which gives us the rigor to activate the subtle subjective light. So this force in the form of renunciation, in the form of bodhicitta, they're also very crucial for our practice. But what actually cuts the self-grasping ignorance is the wisdom of emptiness. So therefore, the wisdom of emptiness is the heart essence of the Buddha's teaching. It is for this teaching that the Buddha Shakyamuni appeared on this earth. Okay, so with this we see that what we're going to read, Heart Sutra, this is so precious. This is so precious. This is so precious, and it has so many other the side benefits. For example, like clearing your obstacles. If you do see some potential obstacles, say bad things happen to the individual one after the other, back to back, unfortunate events, unfortunate things happen to us. So under such situation, if you do see that then some obstacles are there, we need to do some purification, we need to do some puja. This is the best way by which to perform puja and practice in order to clear our obstacles by reciting Heart Sutra and reciting the mantras, Heart Sutra mantra. Okay, so this Heart Sutra is so precious, so precious. So with this Heart Sutra, we need to remember, yes, Ajila?
The emptiness of that can't be really ascertained.
True.
So first of all,
we have to experience
the object of the negation, which is really the clear light, the state of mind, or the subtlest
clear light mind.
So in the meditative process, how do you really put it that yes, I think this is how one can really reach to that?
Okay, so this is in fact the whole thing which I've been discussing now, right? Say if somebody has never tasted chocolate, right? We can explain what a chocolate taste is like. Likewise, for us, many of the sane scholars, they speak about even ordinary beings experiencing subject clear light so many times. For example, every time we go through deep sleep, we experience clear light. Every time we go through the process of death, we experience clear light. Right? So there are several moments when we experience.
It's there, but I don't know whether we really experience.
Exactly.
So,
This is what I'm saying. Same, first, say every moment we go through deep sleep, we go through same. Death, we experience clear light. This is what some sane scholars say. Other sane scholars, why I'm qualifying sane scholars, there's a reason. Because there could be some saints who may not be scholar, which means they cannot articulate what they're experiencing. So the scholarship is very required. And scholars without the saintly qualities, again, they don't experience it. It's a problem. Okay, so saint scholars like Aranyagārjuna, right? Okay, and then Acharya Chandrakirti. Look at just their writings about the activation of this subject clear light. It's amazing. Okay, so some of the saint scholars, they say that, as what Ajiji said, that we do possess this subtlest clear light, but we don't experience them. We do possess. For example, I have my heart. I have my heart. I can experience. I can feel. But say I have the liver. Liver, I cannot experience. I cannot feel it. Lungs, I could feel it. Say when I breathe heavily, I could feel the lungs. When my heart starts palpitating, then I could feel the heart. But the liver doesn't palpitate, right? So I have no clue. I just believe in someone that there's a liver there, but I don't know. I've never seen my liver. I've never even had the inference. So I have, but I don't experience. Likewise, we all have the subtle clear light, particularly at the time of deep sleep and the dead, but we don't experience. This is one version of another version of the one class of saint scholars. Okay. Now the thing is that if there is no clue, then how can we gain conviction in these things? So there are what is known as inference. Direct value recognition and inferential value recognition, there are two. Right? So through inference, we can infer existence of these clear light. Okay, so there are various techniques. Because these techniques, when taught, if taught publicly, it could have quite a serious repercussion, the consequences for some people. So therefore these are not really taught in public. What exactly is this clear light mind and how to activate this is not, because the moment you go into this, it's quite risky. It's quite risky because we're entering into a very different domain of reality. Which we have never ever had contact in our day-to-day life. We are always with the physical, tangible objects all the time, whereas the clear light mind, subjective clear light mind. First of all, the mind, not only the mind, the subtle mind. Not only subtle, the subjective clear light, subtlest subjective clear light. Now, to touch that, because we are someone who have never experienced, it is like saying someone who has been taking food with 5 mm, let's say 10 mm of salt every meal, 10 mm salt, right? And then one day you have a guest and the guest takes only 0.01 mm or mg, okay, not mm, okay, 0.001 mg of salt in the meal, very precise, right? And he or she is your guest. Now, who's going to decide whether your guest is getting the precise amount of the salt? Who's going to decide? Are you or someone else? Are you? No, you cannot, because you're used to 5 mg of salt every day. With such a strong salt, there's no by which you can make a distinction between whether it's 0.1 or 0.2 mg of salt. There's no way by which you can. For you, these two are same. For you, as well as these two have no salt at all. Right? Now, you are going to that domain which we have never exposure to. Right? So at times it's quite risky. So therefore, with the practice of the awareness meditation, which sometimes I give the instruction, I always want the people not to do them on their own. Why I'm still sharing this is because this is something which is so often taught everywhere, and because of which people, they think that I can also do it, and then they end up into accumulating, or say they end up in the consequences rather than the benefit. Is very dangerous. Why I'm saying this so strongly is that in my own ways I also do practice of this kind. And then at times it's so obvious, it's so risky, you can't really distinguish A from B. It's not really there externally, it is all what to be done, seen from your own mind. It's risky. You cannot distinguish the two things. Not being able to distinguish the two things is very dangerous. That you are not really getting the. So therefore, I'm just wondering how, without studying the Buddhist psychology, without knowing your mind, how the mind works in its gross form, how can somebody really get to the subtle one? It's very risky. It's very risky. Okay, so I don't want to go too much into this. So there are clues. There are clues to inform as to what exactly is subjective clear light, subjective clear mind, and how they activate them. There are clues. Because these clues are something, with these clues we are to go into the very different domain of reality. 99.9% of the people listening to the same discourse cannot go there. And if they attempt, it's a suicide. It's suicidal. So therefore, this should not be a public teaching. This is known as a confidential tantric Vajrayana teaching. Whereas nowadays it's so commonly taught everywhere, and encourage people to do so. It's very scary, it's very risky. So one time, I did share this with many of you here. At one time, I started to doubt. I started to have the apprehension. Oh, this is quite a risky practice. From my own little experience, I sense that it's very risky. Just 1 or 2 days later, I found one stanza written by incredibly great Tibetan saint scholar, Sakya Pandita. I read it. What I felt was exactly articulated in one stanza by him. And then from then onwards, I decided to teach, but not to encourage people to practice it. It is simply to tell them that there is something like this, and there are other people who may teach you like this, but please be careful. In order to give the warning, I teach them. At the same time, in the end part, I always encourage them, if possible, you don't do this unless you are really matured in this. Okay, so with this, the point is, with the wisdom of emptiness, even the wisdom of emptiness is considered as the something which is not to be taught easily, wisdom emptiness, because it can lead to nihilism. And with the nihilism, then one tends to accumulate all negative karmas, right? Whereas we prepare ourselves well, then the process of making the preparation for the wisdom emptiness, these are so precious. So the reading the Heart Sutra, for example, this is so precious. And as I said earlier, should you encounter, say, difficulties, one or the other, back to back, then you can recite this Heart Sutra. This will help us to cleanse, remove our obstacles, one. And then should encounter your friends, your relatives, who also go through difficulties like this, then you encourage them to recite Heart Sutra themselves by giving them the little clue as to what exactly is the content of the Heart Sutra. Okay, so to tell someone of what the Heart Sutra is, we need to know ourselves what the content of the Heart Sutra is. So for the content of the Heart Sutra, there are three things not to miss. There are three things not to miss besides the background of the Heart Sutra. Okay. Background of the Heart Sutra is the Buddha Shakyamuni presided over the congregation, and then the Aravalokiteshvara was sitting on one side, and Shariputra was sitting on the other side, and surrounded by all the Bodhisattvas, the Bodhisattvas, the monks, the nuns, and the lay audience there. And then the Buddha Shakyamuni immersed into the meditative experience of emptiness, and deeply immersed into that. While being deeply immersed into this wisdom emptiness, concurrently inspires Shariputra by blessing him to ask questions to Aravalokiteshvara as to how the child of the lineage, the children of the lineage, should practice the professional wisdom in order to be awakened from the sleep of ignorance, and that the miseries will all come to an end altogether. Then the second part, which we are not to miss, is what's the response given by Aravalokiteshvara. What's the response given? The response given is that all our miseries are all because of our objectification of the phenomena. Objectification of phenomena, where there is painting of the ghost, and you view that as a real ghost, then the fear comes. Should you know that this is just a painting, it's not a real ghost, you see that it is empty of being a real ghost, the fear dissolves. So likewise, Aravalokiteshvara started to give the answer by saying that while everything is dreamlike, when we see them as objectified, as so solidly there, like seeing the painting of the ghost as a ghost, we can't refrain from having to experience the miseries and the pains endlessly. And you see that everything is like the painting of the ghost. There's no real ghost there. Everything is empty of being real ghost. Everything is empty of objectified the phenomena. Everything is just empty of objectified phenomena. Then all miseries dissolve. So then Aravalokiteshvara went on to explain how everything is dreamlike, beginning with yourself. I, the one who goes through the miseries, this I is dreamlike. Then this I, which comes to the perception, although it's empty from the object, which comes to the perception on the basis of the five aggregates, how the five aggregates are also empty. They are also empty of objective existence. Then how we go through samsara, we can come out of samsara, going into samsara in the form of the first two noble truths, truth of suffering, truth of cause of suffering, getting out of samsara by the third and the fourth noble truth, truth of cessation of suffering, and the truth of path leading to cessation. Then even these four noble truths, how they are all dreamlike. And then the universe with which we interact, external universe. Then external universe as the object, and the internal universe as the subject, and the medium through which our internal mind interacts with the external world. 6 objects, 6 subjects, and 6 mediums, making 18 elements. How all these 18 elements are all just dreamlike. Then how that, going into detail of how we go into samsara, how we are trapped in samsara by means of the 12 links of dependent origination, how all the 12 things of dependent origin, they are also dreamlike. So in other words, say, when we are in the duality, when we are in the dream of the duality, oh, there's a ghost here, oh, there's my parents, there are my parents here, who are going to save me, there's a ghost there, there's misery there, there's happiness there, this duality. As long as you create this duality, you are in miseries. The moment you dissolve this duality, you wake up, then the dream happiness and the dream miseries they are just non-dual. There's no difference between the two when you wake up. So with respect to waking up, the dream miseries and the dream happiness, there's no difference. When you see this is a real happiness. This happiness is known as the transcendental bliss. This transcends the happiness that one has in dream, which is nothing but the dualistic happiness. Okay, so this is a response given by Avalokiteshvara, and then further, Avalokiteshvara, after giving this response, then the third point, which we are not to miss, is what is the benefit that we get if we practice the way indicated and taught by Avalokiteshvara. What is the benefit? So the benefit, again, Avalokiteshvara very clearly indicated that by seeing things as dreamlike, like how our fear of seeing the painting, the ghost painting, as empty of real ghosts, of how our fear dissolves. Likewise, when we see everything is like dream, our fears of samsara will dissolve. We become fearless. Okay. And then he further added that this entrance of seeing things as dreamlike, which is the entrance to the fearlessness, this is the entrance followed by all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. So these are the 3 points we will not miss. From this we see that all our obstacles are what? Obstacles are the ones, by the very definition, obstacles are the things when we encounter with them, then we don't get the happiness as we intend. Instead, miseries befall on us. And from what we've learned from Heart Sutra, miseries are all because of by being in the dream, by being in the sleep, right? So, with this Heart Sutra, it teaches us how to wake up. The moment you wake up, all what attracts the dream fears, the dream pains, they all dissolve. So nothing can create the dream pains. There is no factor which can potentially give rise to the dream pains for you. So, which means that obstacles are not there. So seeing emptiness is the best way to eradicate all our obstacles. Okay, so this is what we need to, only if we know Heart Sutra in this context, then we can share this with other people. Then other people knowing this meaning of Heart Sutra, then when they recite the Heart Sutra, then obstacles are really cleansed and cleared. Okay, with that in mind, let's turn to page 15 and read the Heart Sutra, not forgetting the 3 points, not missing the 3 points. Okay. The first point, if you want to just mark, the first point is there. Okay. Paragraph 2, page 15, paragraph 2. Then through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Sherpa said this report of Master Avalokiteshvara. Okay. First point is, how should any child of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? So this is the first point which we are not to miss. How should any child of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? This is the first point. Point number 2, the next para, he said that in the words of the Master Avalokiteshvara said to Venerable Shariputra. From there you start. The second point starts from there. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 faculties also as empty of inherent nature. Now explaining all the emptiness. This is point number 2. Point number 3. Page 16, the last para. Page 16, the last para. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely, Shariputra, from the starts point number 3. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in a perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration, thus without fear. Right? If you practice the perfection of wisdom as indicated by Aravarutishvara, then all of fears will dissolve, all of obscurations will disappear, and all of fears will dissolve. Right? Okay, so these are the 2 points which we will not miss as we read Heart Sutra. Okay, and imagine that this is such a precious thing for us to recite. So in our life, how many times we utter sentences, we utter words, we talk to other people, conversations, most of them are meaningless. Now, uttering the words of Heart Sutra is so auspicious, is so precious. We are doing this. In fact, if somebody is to recite the Heart Sutra with a reflection of this meaning, then the more you recite, even your words become holy. Even the breath that you take becomes holy. It's so precious. With this, then you say, for example, if somebody has some problem, physical problems and so forth, then you blow your breath, then the other person can be healed. This is the power. Okay. Let's recite together. I prostrate to the Arya Tudalja. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on Masavalcha's mountain in Rajgriha together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound illumination. Also at that time the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravarutishvara looked upon the very practice of the profound illumination of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravarutishvara: how should any child of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravarutishvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly, beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composite factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are empty, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composite factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on up to it, including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on up to it, including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation of power. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely upon and dwell in the professional wisdom, the mind without obscuration, thus without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifest a complete awakening to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mother of the perfection of wisdom, the mother of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Dhyata Om Gade Gade Para Gade Para Samgade Bodhisvaha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravarutishvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice a profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravarutishvara, those surrounding the entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras and gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by the Bhagavan. Okay, as we recite this mantra, imagine that the Buddha Shakyamuni is exhorting us thus. Okay, don't remain in the fears of samsara. Just undertake the journey of cleansing the mind, internal journey of gati gati, paragati, parasamgati, bodhisvaha. And what attracts all the miseries, all the fears, all obstacles, all anxieties is the mental defilements. Undertake this journey of cleansing the mental defilements. All what attracts the obstacles, all the fears, pains, anxieties are cleansed. Where the true nature, ultimate treasure of happiness within you becomes manifest. So there you will reach a state of enlightenment, state which is freed of all miseries, where miseries is never heard of. Okay, you hearing this melodious voice of Buddha Shakyamuni, you inspire your two grandparents, you inspire every one of your family members, everyone in the universe, the human beings, animals, insects, cats, dogs, then the non-human beings, spirits, the gods and goddesses, all the sentient beings, they happily join you when you inspire them to follow this journey of the internal, the eternal path. Okay, let's listen. With this mind, everyone happily joins you, and you are leading this. Let's say this 7 times. Deyatha Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhisvatyata 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 Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhisvaha. Page 18. By the teachings of the three supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrance be transformed, may they be dispelled, may they be non-existent, may they be pacified, may all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified, may the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified, may we be separated from problems and conditions harmful to the Dharma, may all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, may auspiciousness of perfect happiness pervade this place now. Okay, 8 verse my training, page 19. With the determination to achieve the highest aim, for the benefit of all sentient beings, which surpasses even the wish-fulfilling gem, may hold them dear of all times. May I view myself as the lowest among us all, and from the very depths of my heart respectfully hold others as superior. In all my deeds may I probe into my mind And as soon as mental and emotional afflictions arise, as they endanger myself and others, may I strongly confront them and avert them. When I see beings of unpleasant character, oppressed by strong negativity and suffering, may I hold them dear, for they are rare to find, as if I have discovered a jewel treasure. When others out of jealousy treat me wrongly with abuse, slander, and scorn, may I take upon myself the defeat and offer to others the victory. When someone whom I have held or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me in experimental and hurtful ways, may I regard him still as my precious teacher. In brief, may I offer benefit and joy to all my mothers, both directly and indirectly. May I quietly take upon myself all the hurts and pains of my mothers. May all these remain undefiled by the stains of the 8 mundane concerns, and may I, recognizing all beings as all things as illusions, devoid of clinging, be released from bondage. From my true collections, vast the space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leader Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom, eyes blinded by ignorance. Okay, so now to quickly continue with where we left last time of the Lamrim. And particularly we are doing the short version Lamrim composed by the Lama Tsongkhapa author. One 178, a song of the stages of the path to enlightenment. 178, a song of the stages of the path to enlightenment. So this stages of the path in Tibetan it is Lamrim. So in Tibet it became the whole separate genre. Now page 178. Page 178. Song of the stages of the path to enlightenment. In Tibetan is Lamrim Nyamkur. Lamrim Nyamkur. Lamrim become, as last time we just gave the background of this teaching, the genre of the teaching on Lamrim. The main teacher who brought this teaching or who started to disseminate teaching was Adishadevangara Shri Gyana. Adishadevangara Shri Gyana. And then from Adishadevangara Shri Gyana, then irrespective of the different Tibetan traditions, Sakya, Kakyu, Nyingma, Gilu, all traditions, they embrace this style of teaching of Lamrim in their own the traditions. So the Lamrim, it became very popular in all the Tibetan traditions. So Lamrim, Lam is the path and Rim is the stages or the steps. Steps, the stages. Here, we need to keep in mind the author, Adishadevangara Shri Gyana, when he taught this teaching, Lamrim, it is done in three main say the headings. Under three main headings. So these three headings, they are divided on the basis of the caliber of the practitioners, on the basis of the intelligence, level of the intelligence of the practitioners. Okay, so the first one is known as the teaching for the small scope person. Teaching for the small scope person, then teaching for the middle scope person, and teaching for the great scope person. So three. So we see that they are in steps. First for the small, then when you're there, then you can climb to the middle scope, teaching meant for the middle scope person. Then from there you can climb to the teaching meant for the great scope person. Okay, so it's for this reason this teaching is known as Lamrim, teaching of the graded path or the steps to enlightenment, steps of the path, small, the middle, and the great. And we may be wondering as to in what way, what does it mean by small, what is meant by middle, what is meant by great. This is what we need to know.
Yes.
Okay, so what is small, what is middle, what is great? It is in relation to, so this is in relation to the maturity of the practitioners, the mind. Maturity of the practitioner's mind in this journey, in this spiritual journey towards enlightenment. It is the maturity, it is the small, middle and the great with respect to the maturity or the maturation of the practitioner in this journey of enlightenment. Right? So now what qualifies the first level of the maturity? The small. What qualifies the middle level of maturity? What qualifies the great level of maturity? Okay, this is what we need to know. So that is in terms of maturity meaning. Say for example, say at the time of Buddha, at the time of Buddha Shakyamuni would just would walk from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. And then while he was walking, he would meet with the lay devotees, the people. Then these people, they saw him, the Buddha Shakyamuni, as someone who is very different. From the face, could see the compassion. And from the demeanor, could see the wisdom. So people just go there and seek advice from him. Now listen to what kind of advice people seek. Just try to see. So some will say that, the Venerable Sir, my family have this problem. Venerable Sir, I have this problem. Right? One class. Another class, Venerable Sir, my community is having a conflict with the other community. My community does not know how to go further to improve in terms of education. Other community is so well developed. My community is still very backward. So please advise us. Okay, tell me, which of the two groups is more mature in thinking? One who is seeking the advice from the Buddha, I have a problem. My family is a problem. My father is a problem. My mother is a problem. One group. And the other who is talking about the community. Right? Who is more mature in thinking? Tell me. The second one. Okay. So now the maturity here. The maturity is spoken of in relation to how broad the person can think. How broad the person can think. The person thinking is very narrow, confined to the self. And very broad for all sentient beings too. Right? Now, within those who are confined to the self, say there's one young boy or a young girl who would cry over, he has stolen my toy. Right? He has stolen my toy. And the mother will never fight over, he has stolen my toy, he has stolen my chocolate. The mother will never fight over the trivialities. Children will fight. You're getting it? But both can be very selfish. Mother may be talking about, they talk about my family, my this, my children, my this, like this. May not be talking about the community. And the child also may be very selfish, who doesn't know how to share one's chocolate with other people, other children, right? The mother, or the parents, and not all, some parents and the children, both can be very selfish. Within the domain of this selfishness, one is very narrow, could see only today, not tomorrow. Whereas the mother could see more than today, tomorrow, right? Likewise, we see that there are two classes of people. One who talk about whole community, larger interests. One who talk about simply the personal interests. The ones who talk about the personal interests, again we see that there are two groups. One who could see only today, only this life. One who could see the next life. Right? The ones within the category, the ones who could see next life, within that, again we see that immediate next life, immediate 1, 2, 3 lives, and who could see the whole samsara, right? Samsara. Okay, now how many categories of beings are there? If you are ready to go into details, there are millions of categories. And broadly speaking, from what you learned thus far, we see how many categories of people are there. One is who think about the community, larger interest, one. Number 2 is who, now the rest, they are more into selfish. They are more into selfish thinking, but thinking about the self, but not confined to this life, confined to next life, and the next life, till enlightenment, till nirvana. Thinking about the self, but till nirvana. This is one class. Then another class, thinking about the self, but not about nirvana, but about happiness within samsara. You getting it? If not talking about nirvana, then you're talking about what? If you don't talk about nirvana, then you talk about what? Samsara, right? Within samsara, there's happiness, there's mukti, the pains. So, those who talk about the future life within samsara, but about the happiness. This is one category. The next category is what? Those selfish, but talk about only this life, not the next life. How many groups are there? 4 groups are there. 4 groups are there. You getting it? What are the 4 groups? One who talk about, let's start from the small. One who talks about personal happiness only of this life. One. Number 2 is one who talks about personal, but not about this life, about the next life, happiness of the next life while within samsara. Number 2. Number 3 is those who talk about personal, but to get rid of samsara completely. To get rid of samsara completely. Number 3. Then number 4 is who talk about the larger interests of the all sentient beings. You getting it? Okay. Of these four way of thinking, which do you think is the best? I'm not talking about which of the 4 thinking your thinking tally. This is not what I'm talking. I'm talking about from your point of view, which of the 4 thinking is what you would approve, what you would appreciate more. The 4th one. Next one? 3rd, then 2nd, then 1st. Okay, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. This is in the stepwise, right? Stepwise. Now, Lamrim, the steps, the stages of the path. How many stages are there? Only 3 there. But I mentioned 4, right? What is the discrepancy? First, tell me, all beings that exist, all sentient beings who aspire for happiness, all sentient beings who aspire for happiness, and who shun miseries. Can you think of any sentient being? Can you think of any sentient being who does not belong to any of these 4 categories? Huh? Can you imagine anyone? Can you think of anyone who does not belong to, including a tiny insect, cat, dog, right? We see that everyone, all sentient beings are within this category, right? All fall into this category. Now, why 4? While we are talking about Lamrim, there are 3, but I specify 4. So within the beings, there are people who want to follow dharma and who don't want to follow dharma. The 4th one is the one who doesn't want to follow dharma. Right? 4th one meaning the first, so it is progressive. In the progression, the first who seeks personal happiness just of this life. From there you begin till looking for the welfare of the larger interests of all beings, right? So in this progression, starting from the very personal, selfish thinking to the altruistic thinking. In this progression, the first one is the one who are not interested in dharma practice. You're getting it? Dharma practice. Then from number two, then the moment your thinking is, okay, this life is okay, this life I'll put effort, it's fine. Somehow I can take care of it. But next life is something which I must take care from today onwards, while I'm still alive. It doesn't mean that, oh, I should go for next life, then I should forget this life. This is not true. If somebody goes to this extent, either the person must have been highly evolved, or the person does not know what the real dharma is. If somebody really knows the dharma so well, there is no contradiction between dharma and your mundane life. There is no contradiction. Within mundane life, there are two categories: destructive mundane life and constructive mundane life. Constructive mundane life and the dharma, there is no contradiction. There is no contradiction, right? Destructive mundane life and dharma, there is contradiction. Okay, with this in mind, those who seek minimum, those who seek welfare, even for oneself, be it for oneself, welfare of the next life onwards, not only this life, next life also, those who include the next life's consideration into one's effort, those people become spiritual in nature. So what they do becomes dharma. So dharma, right? Say for example, reciting Heart Sutra, or let's say generosity, act of generosity. Whether this is dharma or not, how to demarcate this? The same act can be dharma, same act can be neutral, same act can be non-dharma. Same act of giving something. When does it become dharma? When does it become dharma? Is that you give this with the awareness that what I'm doing should not be just for this life, for the next life beyond, for me, for others, both, right? Minimum for me, minimum is not just for this life, but for the next life also. Next life also, if you're able to include the next life, benefit of the next life in this act as a part of your motivation, that becomes dharma. Whereas if you give it, you don't believe in any dharma, you don't believe in the rebirth, you don't believe in the next life.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Any difference between karma and dharma?
Okay, yes, this I'll explain. Okay, I'll explain a little later. Now, say you do the same act of generosity, but no belief in rebirth, no belief in the next life. Okay, simply because the other person requires it, and then you feel compassion, a natural compassion. You give it, then it is virtuous. Don't mix the two things. Virtues and dharma, don't mix the two things. It is virtuous because of compassion. You did it. It is virtuous. But still, the act is not considered as a dharma act. Meaning, we can say it's a dharma act, but we can say that the person is not into dharma. Dharma, there are so many ways of classifying it. What I'm saying is, dharma with the goal beyond this life. With the goal beyond this life. Anything that you do with the motivation, with the intention, for the benefit of the beyond this life, not only this life, beyond this life becomes dharma practice, dharma act, right? So whereas if there is no concept of rebirth, reincarnation, rebirth, then the virtues that is virtue can be virtuous, say somebody believes in rebirth and then engages in the act of generosity. Okay, for the benefit of the next life. Okay, this is dharma act. And then someone who does not believe in rebirth and gives out of sheer compassion, no selfish interests involved. So then it may not be called as the dharma practice, but this virtue and the virtue that I engage in so that I will be benefited in my next life. So these two virtues, if we compare virtue done by the other person who has no clue of dharma, that can be much more powerful. Right? So these nuances we should be able to understand. But the point is, what is the practice of dharma? What is the practice of dharma and what is non-dharma? How do we distinguish that is on the basis of the goal. If the goal is more than mere this life, if the goal is more than this life, then all actions, all you do become dharma practice, or your practice becomes a dharma practice. Right? Yes, Patriji?
Just as there are three classifications for people who engage in selfish motivation, that this life or next life or nirvana. And shouldn't there be a similar classification for those who are thinking about the greater good of others? For example, there are a lot of people who engage in philanthropy and they are only concerned with helping people in this life or charity. Then there are those people who want to benefit people in their next lives. And then there are, of course, the bodhisattvas who
okay, okay, what we do first, let us finish this. Let us create a structure. Once you get a whole structure, then you decide it is not necessary that there should be only 3 divisions. Within those who act with a personal interest, they can have thousands of divisions, right? And there is a reason why only these 3 divisions are created, why only 3 parts are mentioned, not more, right? There is a specific reason. First, let us listen to this, right? Let us listen to this. Create the whole structure. Once you get the structure, then oftentimes we don't need the answers. You will get the answer yourself, right? Okay. But should the question persist, then that is the right time after explaining the structure, right? Always this should be our trend. First, let us listen to the structure, and then we can go with more discussions. Okay. So with this, so those people who are interested just in this life, no belief in rebirth, so forth. So this life is not what do we do action for this life. When this life ceases, when this life stops, then the whole purpose of what for you were engaged in these actions, the purpose dissolves. Whereas when you say, okay, more than this life, then you have to include the concept of karma, rebirth, karma, right? So those actions which are connected, which are associated with the belief, conviction in the rebirth and in the karma, then we engage in things for the benefit of not only this life, but for the next lives and onward. Next life happiness, nirvana, Buddhahood, they all become dharma practices. So here, as I said earlier, it doesn't mean that those who are not having rebirth, they are just horrible, they are hopeless, they'll go to hell realm. This is not true. Don't think like this. Go to hell realm, go to human birth, this is all determined by, not by dharma, non-dharma. It is determined by your virtues. Even non-Buddhist, even those people who don't believe in any religion, they can engage in very active virtues. Right? So, your future life, whether you're going to be happy, unhappy, that is determined by your virtues. And virtues anybody can do. Believers, non-believers, all can do. Don't forget it. So, if this is how we understand dharma, that's so meaningful. That's so meaningful. Then say, if a Muslim comes, if a Christian comes, if a Hindu comes, if a Buddhist comes, or if a non-believer comes, and if the person is so kind towards others, wow, it's amazing, this is so precious, please continue who you are, right? Right? If you are a Christian, please continue to inspire other Christians like who you are. If you're a Buddhist, please continue to inspire others to be as good a Buddhist as you are. If a Hindu, please continue to inspire others to be a good Hindu like you are. Likewise, Jain, Sikh, Baha'i, all these, right? So this is how we did know. Now, then if this is the reality, then why the remaining part are so much emphasized? This next question. Seeking, engaging in virtues, so that your next life is taken care of, so that nirvana is taken care of, so that your Buddhahood is taken care of. Why these are emphasized so much? This question. So for this, we need to think very seriously. If the goal that we have in our mind is just this life means, okay, enough food, good food to eat, and say good place with AC if you're in Delhi, right? And then good, say, the surrounding, good people around you, family, good family. Okay, doesn't. So that for this, it is not required for somebody to engage in dharma, right? Of course, we speak about dharma in different contexts. Dharma, one context of dharma is something virtuous, we call it dharma. There's one connotation, right? Don't confine yourself with only one understanding. Okay, so for this, for example, say like wisdom of emptiness. Then say think of achieving Buddhahood for say all sentient beings. They're not really necessary for somebody just to lead a happy life in this, just for this happy life. For example, if you're hungry, instead of saying all these prayers, Om Ye Dharma, like this, go to kitchen. This is a more practical thing. If you're hungry, this is what we can do in this life very easily. And if you are, say, thirsty, go to get water. If you're sick, go to hospital rather than say prayers. Go to hospital, right? These are the things which we can easily manage. We can manage in this life, although it is not so easy, right? But the next life, if the next life is there, then how to take care of this? Oh, next life I may become sick, so I need to make sure that this doctor is with me all the time. No. This doctor is going to be disconnected the moment we leave this body. Right? So next life is not something which the mundane, the facilities can help us. So there should be another thing that should help us to make sure that next life is taken care of. Next life, nirvana, Buddhahood, they are taken care of. So those things which is not accessible in the mundane world, and yet by embracing, by engaging in these acts, you are connected to the next life, nirvana, Buddhahood. Those are categorized as one family known as dharma practice. So dharma, don't simply think, oh, he's non-dharma, so bad. Should not interpret it in that sense. You're getting it? So in other words, oh, I practice dharma, I'm a religious person. So oftentimes there is this word, I'm a religious person, I'm a spiritual person. Even spiritual, this little, again, say a person who may not religion can be very spiritual. Spiritual. Who may not believe in rebirth, who may not believe in God, who may not believe in anything, but can be very spiritual. Right? So it is how you, this word spirituality is very ambiguous. Right? So someone who practices integrity, doesn't believe in any spirituality or any religion, but has a tremendous compassion, tremendous wisdom, tremendous integrity, we say that he lives a very spiritual life, very compassionate. Right? Okay, so now those things which we can do in this life, for example, sir, when you're hungry, go to eat food. For this we don't need any dharma. And if you are sick, go to hospital. And if you're tired, take rest. So these things are what everybody can do. Everybody can do. Now those things which people cannot do with these facilities, like next life, good health, next life, good family, next life, say the longevity, and then nirvana, Buddhahood. There must be something to take care of these things as well. So what is meant to take care of these things is known as dharma. What is meant not so directly related with these things is known as non-dharma, in that context. Here, don't take non-dharma as bad and dharma as good. Dharma, of course, it is good. The moment you take care of next life onwards, for sure the person will do good. But if somebody doesn't believe in rebirth and so forth, although the person may not do anything for next life, for the sake of next life, but still the person can be so virtuous. Okay, this we have to make the distinction. Now, with this in mind, so what to be done for the next life, happiness, nirvana and Buddhahood, which is not something which we can easily go to a doctor and have it, which we go to, say, the shopkeeper and acquire this. So for this we have to do for some other means. That means is known as the Dharma practice. Within this Dharma practice, we see that finally our goal is what? Finally, what is our goal? Let's say your goal, my goal, the goal of the person on the street, the goal of the scientist, the goal of the person who doesn't believe in any religion. What's the common goal of all? 100% happiness. There is no controversy there. Everybody seeks 100% happiness, whether one is believer, non-believer, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslims, Christians, Jains, Baha'i, or scientists, non-believers, animals, human beings, gods, goddesses. Everyone seeks 100% happiness. This is something without any controversy. Okay, now this 100% happiness, so say in a very quick form, in the context of the Lamrim practice, in the context of the Lamrim teaching, which became prevalent in Tibet, which was not the style, which was existent in India, but not as a style in India. Because in India before 11th century AD, before Atisha Devagara Shri Gyana, in India, say the Buddhism, what was there was so vibrant, but what we are studying now in the form of Lamrim, that was not evidently available there in India, right? Okay. So the question is, why not? Why not? It was readily, evidently available in India, while the Buddhist teachings was at its peak, and where it was so readily available, evidently available in Tibet. Anyone? In fact, nowadays, His Holiness the Dalai Lama's style of teaching is more in line with the ancient Indian the master's style of teaching, not so much in line with the Lamrim teaching. His Holiness does teach Lamrim. In fact, say Lamrim is more like what? What example did I mention last time? More like a crash course. Crash course, and the proper university course and the crash course, these two are different. right? Coaching at the university, proper course, these were very different. So what was prevalent in India then? It was more of the university proper course, and what was in Tibet, particularly the London tradition, was more of the crash course. While the university system which India developed then was also in Tibet then. For example, Debung, first in Ganden, Sera, Debung, these three monasteries, the main centers, almost like identical to what the Nalanda University was, the existence of the Nalanda University in India than before 13th century AD. Right? So both traditions were there in Tibet, but London tradition, it became so widely prevalent in Tibet. Okay, now with this, we see that the ultimate goal is what? If possible, 100% happiness. Let us not start by saying that ultimate goal is Buddhahood. If you say ultimate goal is Buddhahood, those who don't believe in Buddhism, they will run away, right? So first ask, what do you want is 100% happiness. Then everybody will say yes, right? Then from there you start. Don't start by saying Buddhism, or don't start by saying Buddhahood, right? Start by saying, what do you want? I want happiness. What degree of happiness do you want? If possible, 100% happiness. Start from there. Okay, let's say 100% happiness. Now, 100% happiness, which we see, whatever label that you may give, for the time being, let's give it 100% happiness. 100% happiness. If we are very sensible, 100% happiness, and happiness on one side, and the opposite of happiness is miseries, right? Miseries. So these are the two sides of the balance. Two sides of the balance. So sometimes happiness goes up, rarely it goes up, right? So misery is always up. Sometimes it goes like this, sometimes, right? And when you goes like this, little bit, happiness from 2% to 3%, we feel as happiness, right? We feel as happiness. In actuality, still 97% is suffering, right? Okay. Now, the happiness and the miseries, like the two sides. We seek 100% happiness. When the side of the happiness goes to the top, infinite top, for which the other opposite side should go infinite zero. It should go to zero. So now, what we seek as 100% happiness is nothing. To put it in a different word, you are seeking 0% miseries. In other words, we want to make our miseries come to zero. To make our miseries zero, what experiences miseries? What experiences happiness? Is the mind. Our mind experiences happiness. Our mind experiences miseries. If I can create a scenario where this mind experiences no zero, that is the time when I have the 100% happiness. Okay, now, how to make that this mind experiences no zero, zero suffering, zero suffering. How to make it zero suffering? Okay, let's say for this we have to go into the philosophy, right? Because this is something which we have never explored. All the methods we employed since time immemorial till now. We have been employing methods to make the misery zero and to make the happiness 100%, but it never happened till now. So the methods we employed thus far was a failure. Now we have to look for an alternate method. We have to look for an alternate method. And the methods which we employed thus far did not require any philosophy, and it was a big failure. So now, even if it involves philosophy, we have to go for this because there's no choice. The choice that we had is very simple, and it only attracted miseries all the time, no happiness, right? Now we have to look for an alternative method. And for this, even if we have to go through surgery, we have to go through surgery if there's a tumor inside. So now the philosophy, even though it is a little challenging, is worth it to explore what it is like. So with this, we come to know that this mind, we are not talking about the mind in terms of the cosmic mind like this, the mind which we are experiencing pain, we experience happiness. So this mind we are talking about, empirical mind. So this mind is the one which experiences happiness, which experiences pain, and we see that external factors, they are not 100% responsible for the miseries that we go through, right? Say, somebody patting you like this, whether this is a pain or this is gesture of affection, it is not determined by the person hitting you, it's how you interpret this. If you see that this is your mother with whom you are separated for the last 20 years because of some very bad person having kidnapped your mother, then you see the mother is such a joy there. This is a touch of affection. Whereas if it is an unknown person, particularly the neighbor who had been throwing garbage next to your door all the time, just like this, how dare you touch, right? Then it becomes very painful, right? It creates irritation. Where your mother's touch creates joy in you. So it is not the external object per se, it is something inside is there. So from this, we come to know that okay, so this is what we're going to study in more detail later on. So the ultimate source of happiness is not external, it's the internal. So as we have been constantly learning about the sound of a clap, this sound of a clap should necessarily come into being by the combination of the two hands. Likewise, experience of pain, experience of happiness, they should necessarily come into being by the combination of the external factors and the internal factors. So while we pursue through the spirituality, it is so important to be very realistic, very objective, and be on the ground. Sometimes people say that external has nothing to do, it is purely your mind. This is not true. This is not true. Sometimes people say like this. Sometimes people, when they are just overly engrossed, overly infatuated, unrealistically infatuated into the spirituality, right? Unrealistically, in that, oh, everything is just mind. No, right? Okay, this is not true. We have to face the reality. The reality is that, say for example, at the moment, if we don't have these ACs on, we can't possibly sit comfortably and listen to this talk, right? So external factors do make difference. This is what we have to accept. So a good spirituality, a good Dharma practice is something which admits the functional world as it is, and then deal with it, face with it with the wise means, and that your feeling of pain and so forth, that you don't give in, that you don't experience, that you're able to go away from the feeling of pains and so forth. So for this, like the sound of a clap, these two hands are both there. For the sound of clap, we can't deny the existence of the involvement of the two hands. Now, one hand symbolizing the external factors, other hand symbolizing internal factors, internal thinking. So these two, when these two come together, then the sound inevitably arises. So now, we don't deny the existence of the external factors. External factors are there, but whether or not the sound arises, it is not just purely external factor, it's the internal factor. Only when these two things come together, then the sound arises. Whereas if the internal factor is missing, then the external factor is there, however strong the external factor is, the sound is not there. So from this we come to know that something to do with my mind internally. If that is under control, then external factors, despite external factors there, it will not disturb my mind. The pain, the sound, the pain in the form of the sound will not arise if one hand is pulled down. Other hand, however strong, external factor will not give rise. Okay, so this means that experience of pain is dependent on two factors. When the one factor, internal factor is missing, then it becomes only one factor. With only one factor, internal pain cannot arise. If this is the confidence that I gain, that I don't give in to the internal factor at all, when the internal factor is totally under control, then external factor, however strong that is, internal pain, the sound of the internal pain can never arise. Okay, so this is how we make the suffering zero, by pulling the internal factor, by controlling the internal factor. However millions, however forceful the external factor is, then the sound of misery stops. So the misery becomes zero. When the misery becomes zero, automatically the other side of the balance will go to the top. That is maximum happiness. Wow, it's amazing, right? Which means now our job is, instead of trying to remove the leaves one by one, the poisonous leaves one by one, wisest thing to do is cut the root. Cut the root. Don't waste your time plucking each and every leaf. You pluck, say like 20 leaves, 400 leaves, new leaves will grow there. So wisest thing to do is cut the root. Likewise, all these miseries coming to know that they are coming because of the two factors coming, external and internal factors. External factor is millions and innumerable. But the internal factor is a self-grasping ignorance, self-centered attitude. When these two things are under control, then by the external factors, however forceful they are, they cannot give rise to the miseries. Okay, miseries come to zero. Okay, now this becomes like a philosophy for us. With this philosophy, the next question is how to remove the internal factor. How to remove the internal factor. So, internal factor is removed in three phases. Internal factor is removed in three phases, right? One, first, say internal factor, we can say that, for example, say you just put this paper, or let's say cloth, say this cloth, you drop in a mud. You drop in a mud. So this cloth is very dirty, it becomes very muddy. It becomes very muddy. It becomes very muddy. Now, within this mud, if you don't explore deeply, we say that it's mud. And there's a subtle mud, gross mud. What is gross? What is subtle? There's a mud there. But someone who is very sensible, who is expert in making the detergent, they will classify the same cloth immersed in the dirt. It has two levels of dirt, gross and subtle. Right? The gross one is you dip this in a water, plain water, and what goes away, what is washed away, that is the gross one, which does not require additional detergent. Then after putting this, the gross ones go away, and still the stains are there. Even if you put so hard to remove it by hand, it doesn't go away. Now for this we need detergent, more powerful detergent. And then you dip it there, you just move it a little bit with your hand, and then the subtle ones will go away. So which means that the dirts, there are two kinds, gross and subtle. Likewise, the internal factor, the metal defilements, metal factor, it also has the same two levels, the gross, the subtle, and the gross. Subtle and the gross. And the gross one can be removed in two ways. One, simply by deactivating it. Or making it making it suppressed. One by suppressing it, and one by cutting from the root, the gross one. Right? So the mental defilements, which are responsible for creating the miseries, when combined with external factors, these are two kinds. What are they? Subtle and the gross. And the gross, these two have to be removed. And the gross one, removal of that or making it dysfunctional. It is made dysfunctional in two ways. One by suppressing and other by eradicating from the root. Two. So total we have now three. Right? Three. One, by suppressing the gross mental defilements. Other, by eradicating the gross mental defilements. Number three, by eradicating the subtle mental defilements. There are three. So why three? There could be more. Yes, there could be more. Why three? There's a reason. Why three? There's a reason. One, when the gross defilements, when they become deactivated, become less functional, what happens is that, say, which is grosser? For example, say our mind not being kind towards the other person. Our mind being aggressive towards the other person, which is gross. Say somebody comes, and the other person is very thirsty, and you have extra water bottle with you, but would you mind please giving me some water? I'm very thirsty. I'm sorry. No. This is one way, right? Another one is, would you mind please giving me some water? How dare you ask? Why did you not bring your water, only your own water? How dare? Get out! So which of the two is worse? Second one is worse. Very aggressive, right? Okay. So there, the first is you have to cool down those aggressive mental states. Aggressive mental states. You have to cool down, right? So cooling down the mental aggressions is what? Cooling down the 10 non-virtuous actions. Cooling down the 10 non-virtuous actions. Physical, verbal, and mental aggressions. Cool them down. Right? Cool them down, but we have not eradicated them by root. What's the root of all these? The root is the self-grasping ignorance. The root is not eradicated. Simply stop the 10 non-virtuous actions. The gross one, it is subsided. It is suppressed. It is suppressed because now you don't act aggressively anymore. You don't act aggressively anymore. You cool down the gross one. Okay, so with this, what is the benefit? When you don't act in ways of, like, say, 10 non-virtuous actions, what is the benefit? That it guarantees that in the next lives you will take birth, you will have a good rebirth. You will have a good rebirth by refraining from the 10 non-virtuous actions. So your goal is what? Some people, they only think about, just to take birth, to be very sick all the time, to be very poor all the time, to take birth from animals in the form of hungry ghosts. So it's very scary, right? So in next life, I should not be like this. So for this, we have to practice the morality of refraining from the 10 non-virtuous actions. So with this, we see that next life, at least next life, 2-3 lives, is guaranteed that you will have a good rebirth. Some people, they only think about those people who believe in rebirth. Those people who believe in rebirth. Within this, some are there who only think about the next birth. Next birth. They're concerned about next birth. About nirvana, this is very far away. It's not my thing, right? Some people, they can't really think about nirvana and enlightened Buddhahood and so forth. They just think about the immediate benefit. So for this, if you suppress the negativities, mental defilements, suppress it, then the benefit is that immediate next lives, we will have sound rebirth, longevity, good health, good fortune, all these things will. But they are all within samsara or nirvana? Within samsara. So this is one goal that people see. So this goal is one. Now, the next one is The next person is, okay, it's good that next life I'm taken care of. Okay, oh, today's your birthday. Today's your birthday. Oh, I give you chocolate. And then, say some children, they are so excited. As well, like this is the whole universe. This is whole eons and eons. And tomorrow, again the child will go, who's going to give me chocolate today? Right? The person could not think about tomorrow's chocolate when the person is enjoying chocolate today. Now, someone, there could be another child, when you give the chocolate today, everybody is so excited over you. But the child thinks, okay, today is fine, but tomorrow is not my birthday. Who's going to give me chocolate tomorrow? Right? There's another child who thinks about not only today, but about tomorrow. Right? Okay, next life, good or bad, it's fine. What about next life? What about next life? What about life 100 lives later? What about 1,000 lives? Oh, it's very, I can't say anything. I cannot predict. But the good thing that I'm doing now doesn't guarantee that I will have all the good facilities after 100 lifetimes. It's not sure. And then again I can take birth. Poverty, sickness, aging, then the hell runs, hungry ghost runs. Yes, it's possible. It's very scary. It's totally unwise simply to think about tomorrow. Simply to think about next life. It's very unwise. I should think of the long term. I should think about how to get out of the problem altogether. How to get out of the samsara altogether, so that I don't have to worry about the sickness anymore. I don't have to worry about having to take birth in the lower realms anymore. So how to do that? But that is this to reach to, okay, this is another way of thinking. So which of the two thinking is more far-sighted? The one who thinks of, oh, next life I shouldn't suffer, I should have a good birth, I should have longevity. One. Another one, next one is fine. What about 100 lives later? What about 1,000 lives later? I can't predict it. Right? So I should make sure that I do something so that I don't have to worry about any life after. So which of the two thinking is more far-sighted? Second one. So the first one is known as the small scope person, and second one is known as the middle scope person. And the third one is, okay, if I am liberated from samsara altogether, it's amazing, it's very good, but my mother is there in samsara. All my sentient beings are suffering there. So if the mother enjoys food in the 5-star hotel and all the children are suffering from hunger, mother will never be happy. How can I feel happy to be liberated from samsara and sentient beings are suffering still? This is totally, I'm not at all in favor of that. I must work so that everybody is liberated. Who's better? The middle scope or this person? This person better. So this person does not think only about oneself, but thinks about all other sentient beings. So the scope of thinking is so broad and so wide. So this person is known as person of great scope. Person of great scope. Okay, so we have small scope person, middle scope person, and great scope person. So these the beings are categorized in these three groups on the basis of the goals they aspire. One goal is, the first one, the goal is what? Just to have an immediate happy rebirth and happiness while in samsara after next life. One. The second goal is what? Total freedom from samsara, so that I don't have to worry about any time in the future, I don't have to worry about the suffering in samsara. Number two. What is the third goal? Benefit, Buddhahood, or say that all sentient beings, not only me, but all sentient beings are liberated from suffering. Third goal. For this, how to make it happen? Realistically, it is by me becoming fully enlightened that I can benefit all. So, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that is the goal of the great scope person. Then we have the goal of the small scope person, middle scope person, and the great scope person. So these three. Now, these three can be related to one individual person. One individual person. How? In order for the person, so one individual person, finally if all these three goals are to be intact with one individual person, then the person, the one self-one should be the final goal of that person, Buddhahood. To achieve Buddhahood, what? Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings, that all sentient beings are liberated from suffering. So for that matter, one should first have the experience of the suffering on oneself. Without you experiencing what suffering is like, how can you wish that all other beings are free from suffering? So you should have the experience. So for that experience, you need to have the experience that I must be free from suffering, right? So that becomes the you in the form of a middle scope person. Now, how long does it take for one to be free from suffering? Is it just one day you practice and then you achieve nirvana tomorrow? Or it takes few lifetimes? Few lifetimes to achieve nirvana, to achieve the goal of the second scope, the middle scope person. It takes at least few lifetimes. So in this lifetime, you're so good. Next lifetime, if it so happens that you're born in such a terrible state where you don't meet with dharma, where you're always sick all the time, where you, like this, if you take birth in such a state, then how can one continue to practice? Because to achieve nirvana, you need several lifetimes for you to grow, right? And then if you take birth in a very unwholesome, realms or unwholesome factors, then you cannot continue to practice. If you continue to practice, then your whole purpose of taking rebirth is defeated. So for which we make sure that the next birth you achieve a favorable birth, longevity, good health, wealth, all these things must be intact. So for this is the goal of what? Small scope person. So initially we have to start with, okay, I have to engage in 10 virtuous practices so that my next life these things are taken care of, so that I can continue my dharma practice. With this, what should I do? I should free myself from samsara. And then you expand this to, that becomes the small scope person's thinking. Then you expand this to all sentient beings, not only me. I should free all sentient beings. That becomes bodhicitta and the goal of the great scope person, right? So, goal of the small scope person, middle scope person, great scope person, 3 persons, 3 goals. The goal of small scope person, happiness while in samsara. The goal of the middle scope person, nirvana. The goal of the great scope person, Buddhahood. Now the 3 teachings, teaching for small scope, middle scope, and the great scope. So teaching meant to achieve the goal of the small scope person is the teaching on the practice of the 10 virtues. Now teaching to achieve the goal of the middle scope person is the practice of the 3 higher trainings. The practice of the 3 higher trainings. Shila, Shil, Samadhi, and Pragya. Morality, meditative concentration, and wisdom. The 3 high trainings. And then finally, the teaching meant to achieve the goal of the great scope person. The teaching is on top of all these are to be piled up. Practice of 10 virtues plus the practice of the 3 high trainings plus the bodhicitta and the 10 perfections. And the 10 perfections. So this is cumulative. From the small scope, when you move to the middle scope, you have to carry what you have been, except for the motivation. Motivation for the small scope, what? I have to practice the 10 virtues in order for me, for my personal benefit of taking good rebirth next time. My personal. So this motivation, personal, has to be changed. Right? when you go to the, particularly for someone who is practicing the Mahayana or the critical person teaching, then but the practice per se, practice has to be taken up, and on this you add the three higher trainings, the training of the Shil, Samadhi and Pragya. Then with this, then again you change the motivation of the personal to all sentient beings. For all sentient beings, you change the motivation from the personal, the what? Intent to the intent for all sentient beings. Then you, on top of whatever you have had earlier of the practice of 10 virtues plus the 3 higher trainings, then you add bodhicitta and 10 perfections. 10 perfections. What is 10 perfections? 6 plus 4. Right? There's a reason why we are saying 6, not directly 10. 6 plus 4. What are the 6? Generosity, ethical discipline, patience, enthusiasm, samadhi or meditative concentration. 6, wisdom. Generosity, 1. Ethical discipline, number 2. Number 3 is patience. Number 4 is enthusiasm. Number 5 is meditative concentration. Number 6 is wisdom. Okay, 6. Now 6 plus 4. What is it? What is 4? Skillfulness, aspiration, power, discriminatory wisdom. Skillfulness, aspiration, power, discriminatory wisdom. So these 10 are to be added. Okay, so this is just a quick overview of the Lamrim practice. Now we will go into the details on the basis of the text, incorporating all the basic topics that we cover under the study of Buddhist teachings. Okay, we'll stop here. Yes, Deja?
You said that there's a reason why we are saying 6 plus 4 and not 10.
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, there's a reason. There's a reason why we are saying 6 perfections plus 4 perfections rather than 10 perfections. Sometimes there's a mention of 10 perfections. Oftentimes there's mention of 6 perfections. Say, within the 6, the remaining 4 are included. Remaining 4 are included within the 6. If you practice the 6 so well, then automatically you are practicing all the 10. But the specialization, to specialize, to work exclusively on the remaining 4. For example, like say some people they practice these things, but skillfulness part may be a little weak. So that is another area that you should not miss. Skillfulness. Then aspirations. So bodhisattvas said, oh, I cannot help all the beings. Then you feel so demoralized. I can't help the beings. No. What you can do now, do. What you can do now, keep that in the form of aspiration. May I be able to benefit all beings to whom I cannot do it now. Aspiration. Right? And then the power. I say, I'm doing the best I can, but I don't have power. Don't worry. You have to work on how to cultivate the power. So to following the bodhisattva path, you should be able to benefit all sentient beings. For this, we need the power to do all these things. And then finally, how all these things can happen is through the discriminatory wisdom. The wisdom to see all the nuances of dependent origination. How, for example, say, if there is the heat coming in Delhi, right? Oh, there's a heat coming there. Why is this heat coming? How is this heat coming? Right? Why? Because the earth, Delhi, more on the equator, so that is coming closer towards the earth, closer towards the sun, right? So whether or not there's a way by which I can twist the whole axis of the earth so that the Delhi comes a little further away from the sun, right? So like I'm saying, for example, how the waves are being created, the heat waves are created. Oftentimes we may think that this is something which is not really possible to eradicate, right? And say the bodhisattvas, even what the ordinary people see as something which is super, the mundane, we cannot really do it. So bodhisattvas knowing what are the reasons, what are the factors responsible for having this tsunami. So nowadays, the scientists, to a great extent, they have reached to some extent of, explain why the tsunami is happening, because of the effect on the environment, because of the excessive deforestation. Oh, we should plant more trees, right? And why this landslide? Because of the earlier, is for the first time in the history of the humanity in this area, is because of earlier there used to be so much of trees growing there. Now because of this excessive deforestation, there is no tree holding the land. So therefore, the landslide, right? So, and then the landslide can affect the ocean can affect the weather can affect the glacier, right? So know all these things, then see how to keep them under control. So the bodhisattvas, they think like this. So for all these, they need what is known as discriminatory wisdom, right?
Krishna, you mentioned the first layer is the 10 virtuous
Actions, yes.
actions. And then there is another three higher trainings.
Yes.
Which is Shila, Samadhi and Pragya. Now, aren't the 10 virtues part of Shila? Or what is the Shila apart from these 10?
Okay, this is a good question. 10 virtuous practice, or the practice of refraining from, the practice of morality of refraining from 10 non-virtuous actions, right? So that is primarily to suppress our aggressive actions. Now, when you go to the teaching for the middle scope person, so there the purpose is to achieve nirvana. And the nirvana, what holds us back from achieving nirvana is self-grasping ignorance. So to cut the self-grasping ignorance, to cut this, of course the details we will go later, to cut the self-grasping ignorance, it is through the pragya. It is through the pragya, wisdom. And this wisdom, self-grasping ignorance is like darkness. The wisdom is like the light. It is through the light that the darkness of the ignorance is eliminated. But this light should be very bright and should be very stable. Light should be very bright and very stable. If it is not stable, although it is very bright, but if it is flickering, then the purpose of having the light to read books, the purpose is not accomplished. So the light should be very steady, should be very bright and very steady. So the brightness is analogous to the wisdom, and the steadiness is analogous to the samadhi. Now, samadhi is the steadiness of your mind. To have the mind very stable, to have the mind under control, you should have the physical and verbal under control. When the physical and verbal, they are unrestrained. When they are unrestrained, what makes the physical and verbal unrestrained is because of the mind. The mind is in a disturbed state. So with the physical and verbal in the unrestrained form, then the mental stability, the mental samadhi is impossible. So to acquire the stability of the light, the steadiness of the light, which is the steadiness of the mind, we need the steadiness of the control of the physical and verbal. So the control of the physical and verbal is known as Shila. Control of the mental is known as the steadiness of the mental is known as the Samadhi. And then with the Samadhi, then when the pragya is ignited, then this becomes the wisdom of emptiness to combat the self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping ignorance is cut, then the miseries come to zero.
Does it mean that the three higher trainings refer exclusively to the practice of meditation?
not necessary. So for example, practice of refraining from 10 non-virtuous actions, this fall under the shield. And then you say while, sitting meditation falls under samadhi. And then even while you're talking, you talk mindfully, this is also samadhi, right? And then when you sit, when you sleep, when you eat food, or when you go out, for example, this is what I was talking to some of the people. When you go out, some people, right, they can go out to pubs, nightclubs, but with the mindfulness, as observer, not as indulged, not indulged, but as observers, what is happening there, what's the demerits, and how the fights are happening in the end, right? Be a good observer rather than getting involved, getting sucked up there, right? Getting sucked up, this is where you become unrestrained. You be there, but being very observant, right? So that is samadhi. So even at the pubs, you can have samadhi. Yeah. Okay, let's turn to page 309. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the Triple Gem. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddha in my heart. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the mysteries of the world. The path of union of emptiness and compassion is lucidly explained by the protector of the Dharma and the beings in the snow land. You are the lotus of the Tenzin Gyatso. We supplicate you that your wishes are fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds of the negative forces of humans or non-humans who have been managed through perverted prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas be totally vanquished through the power of the truth with the three jewels. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by Aramajishri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and the teachings of the dependent origination in particular, even in the cosmic life. Good night.